Hi, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back in to Tech and AI Live, New York. Where is Gen AI going? How's it being used right now? And more importantly, what to watch out for tomorrow, next month, next year? Dare we even think beyond that? So the future of Gen AI will be cracked in the next 40 minutes or so. This is brought to you with Melillo Consulting. So welcome panel. We've got a panel of 5 thought leaders here. Welcome panel, welcome all. Can I introduce you? So we have Kevin Higgins, Vice President and GM of Professional Services and Solutions at Melillo Consulting. Shruti Dhumak, welcome back again, Shruti. I think we were talking just about an hour ago. Shruti from Google Cloud. Shavika Singh from the Head of Global Strategy and Business Development at TikTok. And I know, Shavika, you are really struggling with a very bad throat. So look, thank you for being with us. And I know it's difficult for you. I've got a strategy. We're going to make the rest of the panel do all the hard work, but we'll bring you in for the big ticket questions to keep your throat. Priyan Pattnayak, Senior Principal Scientist at Oracle Cloud AI, and Hamsa Hassan, Privacy, AI and Security Advisor from the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. Welcome all. I hope I've got those details right. If not, put me right as we go along. Naturally, as I'm a born-again cheat, I asked my dear friend at Google Gemini to help me out with this one. And the answer is the future of Gen AI involves a deeply integrated partnership between humans and intelligent systems, leading to a new era of efficiency, personalization, and innovation, but one that must be navigated with careful consideration for its societal and ethical implications. So maybe that's the framework for what we're going to discuss, but I'm sure you're going to make it an awful lot more interesting. Kevin, can I ask you to kick off with your perception of what we are going to see in the future, how that technology is going to develop, and maybe how that feeds into use cases?
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate it, Tim. So, it's funny. I mean, this has been buzzing now for the last, 3 years or so. And, at Melillo, we don't look at Gen AI as it's no longer a line item. We're striving to kind of put it at the core of our operating model on how we deliver value internally as well as to our customers. At a high level, if you think about it, internally we're tackling things like, moving over 50% of our level 1 and level 2 service desk tickets to AI first triage and auto self-remediation models. It allows us to stay leaner and deploy more of our human capital and assets to the field, which is where we actually make the most of our money and contribute to the bottom line. And then with customers, we're seeing the same kinds of things at scale. All that keep the lights on type work represent what we would consider fairly low-hanging fruit and opportunities for Gen AI and AI agents, so that we can get better use out of our human capital through the use of optimizing that through Gen AI. And in terms of we're kind of reshaping roles. We deal a lot on the infrastructure side of things at Melillo Consulting, and the old roles of an infrastructure engineer or architect, or we're looking at more of as an AI orchestration architect as we move forward, right? Because some of those mundane tasks are virtually going to become obsolete.
Shruti, from your perspective at Google Cloud, you are able to see and peer into so many companies, but you are also clearly at the forefront of technological developments. What's your take on the future? Can you give us a 1-year look ahead?
Absolutely. I think definitely, like today, Gemini 3 is out, Tim. Yeah. So if you were checking things on 2.5, you'll be looking at 3. Things are just developing in front of us so quickly, so fast that I feel like slowly, not just 1 year, but 5 years down the line, all of the things that we're talking about right now that Kevin rightly said, there's using Gen AI as a powerful tool. Instead of that, it is going to be so embedded in our day-to-day that it's going to be part of our life. So some of the obsolete, old, mundane tasks of keeping lights on is going to be so old that it is very important to understand that GenAI is going to be part of us. So it's not that, oh, this is going to be a different tool altogether. So that's what I think in the future. Internally, we're obviously wanting to be one step ahead. So the engineers on my team, we're looking at what is required. How are we going to empower our enterprises? And how are we going to look at our customers? What is the next thing that is coming in? How should governance be part of each conversation? Security be part of each conversation? So some of the non-negotiables that I discussed earlier as well, I think those are the ones internally that we're looking at, and obviously want to stay one step ahead so we can empower our customers and partners.
Okay, so I want to come back to people, and I want to come back to certainly security. Priyan, can you add to anything, any insights so far?
No, I think what Kevin mentioned, right? Customer support is probably one of the fundamental use cases, right? Which have been mostly, tackled in many industries, and we have been doing the same here too. The immediate next thing, obviously, is along the lines of what Shruti mentioned, right? As a cloud company, we do build products and services that our customers use for various purposes, right? Now, the goal that we have in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years is not just forcing AI into everything, but actually making it embedded into these products, right? Like
Yeah.
If there is a conversational system, how do you make it natural for the customers to be able to converse and maybe interact with their data plane, with their control plane, and be able to create resources in a very natural way. It should not feel like it's a big lift for them, because then you lose touch with your customers, and then it feels forced, right? So that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we tackle in the next 1 to 2 years.
Can I just challenge that? Is there going to be a time when we real human beings, the customers, are going to get fed up talking to a chatbot and an AI, whatever? Are we not going to favor companies who give us real human contact? I don't know.
No, it's true. I mean, that's obviously one of the things that brings in human in the loop kind of conversation,
Yeah.
where you also have to be very thoughtful about the design, right? As in, you cannot have an AI interact with the customer when customer's tone and intent is very different, and if they really need some in-person touch. So this is where human in the loop kind of philosophies come in, and you have to be deliberate in building these sort of systems and flows, so that you are enhancing the experience, not really forcing something onto the customer.
Yeah. And Hamza, just to bring you into the conversation as well, answer the exam question, the future of Gen AI, from your perspective.
So I've been left fortunate enough to be recently based. So I'm based in the UK, and most recently I've been with IEEE as an advisor in security and AI, but also in NEOM, the world's biggest giga project in Saudi Arabia. So in that jurisdiction, the future of AI has gone beyond generative AI. We're looking at now agentic AI and how AI will transform shopping experiences for customers. So, for example, if I'm a customer looking for a car, I'm just going to go on a car advertisement and give it prompts based on what type of car I'm looking for, and give me sort of responses based on what I'm looking for without having to filter anything whatsoever. Similar to shopping. So if I'm looking for a pair of trainers, which I'm size UK 8, I'm just going to say I'm size 8. I need white trainers of this brand, and it will filter all the web results for me, find the right item, put it in a shopping basket. And at the point in time where I need to put my bank details in is where I manually involve myself. So similar to Tim, when you were mentioning to Priam about the human involvement and the human aspect, that's where there's the sort of human involvement pieces when it becomes sort of very serious security concerns or very serious ethical considerations. Human involvement is very important. But for the mundane, repetitive tasks that might save you or free up so much time, AI will help radicalize that or transform that in a positive way, but of course with the right safeguards and security controls. So I think it's going from further enhanced agentic AI, and also, for example, architectural models. What we've been doing in NEOM has been digital twins, building structures and designs before you engineers and construction guys actually building on that site to give you
Yeah.
visual
I want to pick.
analysis in real.
Something you said there just made me want to pick up on something that one of our previous keynotes, Kevin Miller from IFS was touching on agentic AI. And I wondered to what extent businesses and business leaders are confident enough to actually let go and let agentic AI do its thing. Because there's something about, as you mentioned there, Hamza, that monitoring, that control, that human intervention bit. And I wonder if there's a real block here for businesses to let go, because at the end of the day, if your AI model is reading data coming in, information coming in from your customers and acting on it without your supervision, there's room for tears. Shruti, perhaps that's something you can pick up on.
Absolutely, and that's a great question because we are having those conversations at the moment.
Yeah.
It's very important to know, it's one thing about leadership, having the vision for their organization and taking the step is very important. So I wouldn't encourage any leader to kind of take these and put into production. I think there's going to be a lot of trial and error. Maybe there could be a sub-agentic platform where the agent itself is going to supervise things. I can give you an example. Recently, we were talking to one of the customers who have their brand guidelines, and they want to create image and videos according to their brand guidelines. So it should not affect their brand in totality. So we're thinking maybe there could be an agent who's going to look at their brand guidelines, check that as whatever we're creating is going to hit that brand guidelines, and only then move forward. So there's going to be a lot of intertwining between the technology agents, multiple agents at different layers, and at the same time being supervised by humans. So it is going to be a phased approach, Tim, to answer your question in simple words, where first it is going to be take a look at this closely if it is working. Second phase would be, okay, I'm confident. Now we want agents to supervise, but I would be the final one to say, okay, this is fine. And then slowly it is going to evolve where, the agents will probably be more embedded, as Priyan was saying, in the whole ecosystem. But it's going to be a phased approach. I think none of us are there yet.
Yeah, I guess it's a point of at what stage do you let go? And to what extent do you let go? And do you have any thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in, Tim. This kind of thoughts around letting go or maintaining control. I mean, it takes me back to conversations we were having almost 15 years ago with robotic process automation, right? Yeah. RPA was going to take over, and a lot of challenges that we had and companies had seeing value out of that was relinquishing that control. And we would try to say that, hey, you've been operating in this environment in a very definitive rule-based decision set. What does it matter, right? If there's no discretion needed throughout this, this particular business process, let it take over. So, really AI and agentic AI is applying some level of thought and autonomy to that process. And the first step is, targeting those mundane, very strict rule-based processes that allow customers or business units to get socialized to relinquishing that control. And then they can slowly trust when you apply the models to it, then you can slowly start to trust the decisions that you might let the model make, if that makes sense.
Yep. Priyan, a final word on this topic to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like, agentic AI today, as it is, it needs iterative development, right? In the initial phases, you would target those trivial activities that, you really trust that the agent is going to be able to do with a high degree of confidence. And obviously, there are different sort of evaluations in place that we have to make sure that that is the case. And when we see those signals, then we basically turn on the lights for, those sort of agents. And then as time progresses, as the reasoning and the intelligence level increases in the models, at some point, then you would target different type of workflows where, you need more sort of deep reasoning, right? And this is, the reason I'm saying this is because we are in the business of building cloud for enterprises, right? Like it's very different from building something for like an end user. And we're dealing with very sensitive, customer private data. So we cannot literally, activate those agents in a experimental manner, right? So we need to make sure that they are able to perform and do the task with very high degree of precision and very high degree of recall. So both of them needs to be really, really high. As things stand today, it will take some amount of work for us to get to that stage.
I think all four of you, I should say that Sharika from TikTok has had to leave us. Her throat was just completely giving up. So that's really sad. That's why there's only five of us left. But to what extent do you guys you each have some helicopter view of what's going on across many industries and businesses? To what extent are businesses have they finished with just creating the whistles and bells, but actually now transforming processes within businesses in a meaningful way? And I mean a total transformation rather than simply automation. Can anybody pick up on that? Shruti, perhaps.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I would say there has been a tremendous change again. Ever since we started talking about Gen AI to agentic AI in the future. And I can say that with a lot of confidence because I'm seeing that developing in front of me, whether it's healthcare industry, whether it's supply chain, creating digital twin that Hamsa was saying for supply chain industries, or even logistics. I know that there's a lot of work that has been done in logistics industry today. And also to an extent in Gen Media. That is an up and coming topic and area and use cases that people are chasing when it comes to Gen Media, because it's the multimodality part of these new models, which is very important. It is so easy to change image, text, code, etc., which was not the case, I would say, a year ago. So without taking any names, I see a tremendous progress where there's been real critical business use cases being built with these Gen AI models overall in front of me.
Priyan, can you give us some great examples of the transformations which we are now seeing that we weren't before, and maybe project on into the future?
Yeah, especially in the field of multimodal processing, right? Images and videos specifically. Nowadays, for a brand to go from from like zero to marketing ready or ad ready is no longer several weeks of work, right? Like you could literally use a multimodal model to be able to design a flyer. I mean, like I'm in these group chats all day. There's someone hosting some party and they have this nice card that they use Gen AI to create. Like it would have taken 30 minutes for anyone to go to Canva or some platform to build these things, right? Now you could literally describe what you want, and I mean, there are some errors obviously, but it's still evolving, right? So the amount of transformation and this is like a very regular user, right? Like people who are in the group chats, right? Now think of like people who are really versed with logo design or ad design, and what they could do with these sort of tools. It's just phenomenal, right? Like they could literally create entire brand videos, marketing videos in very short period of time. So I do think multimodal aspect to Gen AI. I mean, we all have seen what the text and the NLP aspect of it is, but I think really the multimodal aspect is what brings all these different sort of perceptions and sensory aspect into generative AI and agentic system, and that is what is going to change the future.
Kevin, can you speak to the subject of the transformation that we may see ahead in the next year or two, the types of transformations we might see?
Yeah, so I was just thinking as Shruti and Priyan were talking, because I really like their examples. One of the things that I'm personally kind of excited to see how it's going to evolve is the transformation within higher ed. Because it's such a big business as a father of two kids who are completing school. So it is a large business, but looking at how they're not only going to apply it from an increased like student experience perspective, opportunity for learning, kind of supporting the next generation of AI literacy and ethical concerns and policy, et cetera. From that perspective, but just how fast AI accelerates learning in general. for the individual, it's going to be really interesting to see how that applies within the higher ed world. I don't necessarily know how that's going to play out. I've got some high level thoughts, but it is going to be very interesting, because what we're seeing internally with our own with our own employees is just the rapid rate of learning in terms of information availability and the context with which it can apply to you in your job based on your tasks very rapidly to achieve a very quick outcome.
Well, let's pick up on the people aspect of it. Hamsa, forgive me, Kevin's raised, I think, the most important question, and I really want to sort of deep dive into that. What are the implications, Kevin? Just go on to talk about the implications for your workforce in the next couple of years. What are you going to see? And I wonder whether many companies are ready for the fact that actually this is about retraining and reskilling your workforce on a level perhaps they haven't done for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, AI training and learning has been on everyone's development plans for the last, several years, because, being in the consulting industry, it's our job to know before everyone else has to, so that we can help understand the art of the possible, and help guide. But what we have found internally is that enablement and context is key. Right. So, when the technology first comes out, we're talking in very broad brushes. But when you take the time to understand the use case within a particular service line, think us improving operations in terms of getting statements of work or quotes out to clients, taking the technology and applying it to specifically, like we have an SOW creation agent so that we can increase the turnaround time, so we don't have salespeople and clients waiting on statements of work from our team, using natural language processing to generate quoting, and things like that, and then writing agents to audit and ensure the quality of those quotes before they go out for final approval from internal folks to our customers. So those are the enablement and context, right? So being able to apply it within a specific use cases and getting away from the higher level broad brush, I think we have found the most value in terms of seeing positive outcomes in a rapid fashion. And we apply that same kind of mindset for our customers, right? Yeah. We try and meet them where they are. If they're broad brush, we will certainly give them the overview and understand the art of the possible, but we very quickly try and narrow down on something meaningful that we can focus in and see quick wins with.
Hamsa, can you project, I don't know how far you can project, the impact on people within organizations and the implications for them and the companies?
Sure. So I'd like to definitely echo what Kevin was saying in how it transforms and supports staff in organizations with the mundane RFP scheme of works, all of that kind of work where you can focus on the most important things. Implications. So currently at IEEE, some of the governance and ethicality and fairness and transparency and explainability principles, which is set forth by NIST and EU AI Act and OECD AI principles, is from generative to agentic to also identic AI, your digital self being online. So a personalized AI twin, which mirrors your knowledge, communication style, and work habits. For example, drafting emails for you, preparing briefs, summarizing meetings exactly how you would. So it's picking up pattern recognition over the course of period whilst you're at work to then do those tasks for you. So if you're sort of really busy with something, then you don't need to worry about that. Similar to having that identic AI as your own collaborator who's always hands-on. For example, attending meetings on your behalf, capturing actions, providing follow-up recommendations in your tone of voice, which pretty much ensures continuity and productivity as well, even when you're not present. So that's, as Kevin was mentioning, supporting with the mundane tasks where you can focus on your core responsibilities, and it can support with sales pipelines then, and then other objectives you may have. So that's, I think, the important transformative areas where it's heading into, but also having a solid governance structure with all these underlying regulatory or governing standards and frameworks is very important. And I think other implications may be this may rapidly move so fast that regulators and governance mechanisms may not be in place to capture such risks, which is, of course, major talking points as well.
Yes,
sorry, go on. I know, Tim, you're eager to say something.
No, I'm just thinking that's yet another area that we need to get into, but perhaps, and thank you for raising it, because I wanted to, but Shruti and Priyan, just the people impact side of things. What are you seeing from your helicopter view of how companies are coping with that?
Yeah, mind if I go first, Priyan?
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very important question. I think I would say it is one of the two pillars, right, Tim? It's technology and the people. So I'm seeing organizations where obviously they are first looking at, if it's a healthcare industry, they'll look at other healthcare customer or other healthcare player. What are they doing? I've seen organizations where they're looking at others who've implemented this, but at the same time looking at themselves, just doing due diligence on what are the gaps from a technology perspective. And again, everything comes into picture around change management, around having a CCOE team where you have a center of excellence. This is the team who's going to govern. This is the team who's going to be dedicated for the agentic transformation of this organization. So I think the organizations are thinking in that direction where they want to upskill their people. And to be honest, what I think, and this is my personal view, is you snooze, you lose. I think the organizations have to think about, this is the future, this is coming, this is real. We're moving post the experimentation phase, where Kevin is using maybe agents, Gen AI, for creating the SOW, the statement of work, where it was a manual process, and it is still a manual process in various organizations. So it's great, Kevin, that your organization is one step ahead. So I think all in all, there's a huge change, but I feel if you break down the change in upskilling the people, building teams who are going to be focused on the transformation, building teams who are going to be focused on governance and adding guardrails, I think the transformation, the organizations will slowly make an impact, and they'll see that down the line. Instead of thinking it as a big change, I think it's going to be huge. I would rather think about, if I was the leader, I would think about breaking it into these chunks, and then having small tasks achieved each 6 months, 1 year. And then you'll see at the end of 3 years, I think it's going to be, if you look back, it's going to be transformational in itself. So it's a huge change, but at the same time, if you take one step at a time, it's pretty much doable.
I was going to ask you, so what's your advice to companies around managing this whole people thing? Perhaps you've answered that already, which taking it into those bite-sized chunks. Kevin, what would be your advice to organizations to deal with the impact on their staff, the whole change management, the whole upskilling and training bit?
Yeah, so where we've seen some of our clients, and frankly, internally, we've always fostered this mindset of continuous improvement. And where we see the fastest adoption is organizations that operate similarly, because then they look at AI or Gen AI or AI agents merely as a tool for continuous improvement and efficiency. And when we come into organizations where we say, hey, we've always done it this way, we're always going to do it this way, we say, hey, you need to challenge that mindset, because it's not if you're not first, you're last type event here. But as Shruti mentioned, you need to get started, because otherwise you're going to slowly just get further behind your competition.
And the implication of what you're saying there, Kevin, just is that for all the bravado that is spoken about, the great use cases of AI, etc., you seem to be implying that most companies are well behind the curve, let alone the future of Gen AI, that they're not even getting to grips with Gen AI today.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's an interesting point. And when we talk to a lot of our clients, they're not as far behind as the media might make you feel, right? And as rapidly as it appears that AI is being rolled out in our phones and, online and in various tool sets, our home automation platform, et cetera. So they're not as far behind as you think. Our advice is to spend some time, identify 10 potential use cases, rapidly boil that down to 3 to 5, pick a high value one, right, that is heavily mired down in human interaction, heavily rule based, and just get started and fail fast, right? Because if you can take that initiative on with a goal of getting something into production in, say, 90 or even 180 days, you're going to learn so much from that process about your culture and just how much it may need or may not need to change. That it's going to be, worth what I would consider 100 proof of concepts. So pick something, get started, be willing to fail fast.
Thank you, Kevin. Priyan, it might fault entirely that we went slightly off the question topic, which was about the impact on your people and bringing your people through, the impact on the company of doing that. So top tips on that from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a tech company, right, like, it's technology is always evolving. It has always evolved, even before Gen AI. But with Gen AI, I think there is, the pace of developments is obviously a lot more and faster. And internally, we do encourage employees. I mean, I think at this point, every software developer here at Oracle Cloud, has, dipped their feet in Gen AI, in AI, to say the least, right? And they use AI regularly in their work, be it, code assist, be it things like, documentation assistance, stuff like that, which generally, like, increases productivity and actually lets them think more in an analytical manner on what's the best way to solve a problem, rather than, get into the nitty gritty of, figuring out how to code and how to do things, kind of like the daily chore, so to say, right? So that's kind of like at a very, very fundamental level. But then there is this kind of like a layer on top, which is how do you create this governance, right? How do you create a review board that makes sure that, whatever you are building is actually secure, right? Because you're building it for, enterprises. Like, how do you make sure your solution is secure? Whatever code you're pushing is actually secure, right? Whatever tool you're using is actually secure. So internally at Oracle, we do have these sort of governance mechanisms that we're trying to set up. There are some already in flight. There are some that we are still working on, kind of like a reference architecture, COE point of view. So that would essentially define how people would use some of these tools internally, be it Gen AI, be it agentic development kits, for example, or any sort of assist tools.
Hamsa's proposition 5 minutes ago, though, was that we haven't got the governance in place, the guardrails in place, and we certainly don't know what's coming forward. We certainly haven't got the right governance and regulations in place for whatever's coming forward. Are you worried? What needs to be put in place, Priyan, would you say, to see us through the next, I don't know what, 3 years? Could we say that?
Yeah, I think a lot of these governance that we talked about, right, are kind of like at individual, enterprises and companies, right? Like people who are building, products and softwares. But I think there is a missing piece of governance that is going to, I mean, the hammer is going to come down. It's coming down slowly, but it's going to come down from regulators, right? So that's the piece that I think the industry is kind of like anticipating to what extent there will be some sort of regulation. One example is for a full self-driving, like FSD, right? So the moment things are cleared for full self-driving, there would be some sort of mechanism where who do you hold accountable, right? Like if your car crashes, for example. And then similar things can be translated into the AI world, right? Like if you produce, if we do achieve AGI, for example, then how do you ensure mechanisms from a regulator standpoint on who to hold accountable if things go wrong, or even defining basic principles, right? Kind of like, how GDPR has, privacy regulations. So how do we define these sort of AI regulations with, like, when it comes to data storage, when it comes to data processing, when it comes to model training and things like that? None of that has been defined yet. I do see in the next 1 to 2 years, or maybe 3 years, this sort of thing happening from regulators.
Hamsa, what's your view?
I totally echo Priyam, exactly agree with what he's saying, because I think on an organizational entity level, we're crafting out the standards, the foundations based on common law. So what GDPR says, we will try to sort of imitate similar standards and rules on making sure they're secure and safe and privacy enhanced. But I do think on a regulatory level, in the next 1 to 3 years, when we will see regulations quickly, rapidly prioritize this and build the underlying laws to support such developments, because it is guaranteed to happen. It will change ways of working, and it will fundamentally, radically transform our lives. So it's definitely on the radar on a government level across the world, really, on this. And that's why you have the World Economic Forum's AI Ethics Committee. You have global institutions that are crafting out standards and frameworks on a sort of academic level, how we'll support academics, research and study, as Kevin was saying, for his children and our children when they get older. So I think, it will happen in the next 1 to 3 years, but today it's probably not there yet, but it's a journey, so we should embrace it whilst this is being sort of driven, kind of thing.
Shruti, what do you want from regulators and governors?
Yeah, it's very important to kind of categorize this, right? There's one thing called as model accountability and explainability. So when the regulators are looking at this, especially when there's fintech or healthcare, these are like some stringent rules that should come down. It's very important for organizations like us who are thinking of ourselves as technology partners to embrace those regulations as we are building these models. And so that also has to be a big responsibility from our end, which we're working towards with ourselves or Priya and your organization, where it's important to embed these regulations. Second thing is also grounding things, looking for bias. There is various layers where you have to think about whether these RAG models are really looking at bias, or are they really giving you the content that is required. Content filtering is so important. So anything that we produce is going to be checked. And then there's also certain architectures where I think we touched upon this in the first 15 minutes, was mandatory human in the loop. It is very important where the final review will be done by the human. So I think the expectation is obviously to get it down to the model level and then getting it into the organization and the functionality. But it is very important for us to think about this as, again, part of the whole ecosystem. Regulators, governance, security, this cannot be an option. It was never an option. It should never be an option in the future. But expectation from the regulators, just circling back to that, is just all these points. Just be clear, crisp on getting what we need to do from a technology perspective and how we want to embed this in our ecosystem moving forward.
I wonder, therefore, if the future of Gen I is about much better deep fakes, much more successful cyber attacks, much better phishing attacks. And clearly, it's being deployed in an arms race on both sides. Will Gen I provide us with the technology to keep us safe? Kevin, perhaps?
Sure, Tim, that's a great question, right? Is will the technology outpace the defense? For defense, will it outpace or keep pace with the attacks? That's something a lot of our technology partners in the security space are spending significant amounts of money and effort to do. It's a great question. I don't necessarily have an answer for it, but
No, sure.
But it's one of those things that you know, if you look at all of the red and blue and purple teams, you know, from a security standpoint, now trying to leverage those tools as well as the embedded AI within the platforms themselves to kind of minimize the attack vectors and things like that. I mean, I can tell you that there is a significant amount of effort to do that. But, you know, to your point, it absolutely makes the flip side more efficient at what they're trying to do as well.
How are you going to keep me safe, Shruti?
It's a great question, and I wouldn't say anything different from what Kevin said. It's an ongoing effort. Everything that we internally that I see obviously is again grounding in search, security, governance. I keep saying the same words, but it is so important to think about this. And Gen AI, we're using these words now, but if you look at the last 10 years, decades of technology and improvement, I think we've been in the same race where the defense obviously has to be one step ahead than the offense, like the attackers. So it's an ongoing journey, it's an ongoing effort. And I know that the organizations who are in the forefront of technology plus security are spending a lot of time to make sure that we were one step ahead of the attackers. So again, not a clear black and white answer, but I can as I am looking at it internally, I know how critical it is to think about security as we roll out different features, and I'm sure other organizations are doing the same. So yeah, I think there's never going to be an end to that. That's just going to continue as we speak.
Oh, good. Hamza, I know this is an area of significant interest to you.
Yeah, sure. So actually, on a security front, lots of cloud native products are building AI into their platforms. And the good thing is where we would sort of receive hundreds of thousands, especially for complex global institutions or organizations, when you would receive 3,000 or 4,000 alerts a day. A team of security analysts wouldn't be able to go through all of those. However, now with AI integrated into workflows, it's able to detect and analyze, policies, alerts, allowing, blocking, and then we're able to just review what is high risk and critical to the organization. So it's freeing us up on lots of time from a time aspect, but also reviewing every single alert we receive, whereas a human wouldn't have been able to achieve that. So we are seeing some positive use cases on an organization front with security.
And Priyan, last word to you, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll maybe mention a little bit different. So, in the research community, right, in the AI research community, I have seen a lot of effort that is ongoing with respect to, red teaming, with respect to figuring out these different attack vectors and the cybersecurity space. And almost all of it is now, geared towards Gen AI, either using Gen AI or, geared towards anticipated attack vectors that use Gen AI. Recently, I think a couple of days ago, there was an article around how Anthropic thwarted such an attack, right, which was against one of their systems. So there are really two ways to address this. One is obviously you use Gen AI, you use your red teaming efforts to be able to build more robust mechanisms to handle these sort of scenarios. Second, really at the fundamental, right, these are again all software systems, right? So building basic secure software systems, following the security standards, following there's like a OSA standard, following all those guidelines to build your systems is really critical to be able to prevent these things.
Okay, look, we've run out of time and we've hardly skated over the subject, but that's the way of things. Priyan and Shruti and Hamza and Kevin, many thanks for joining us. It's been a brilliant conversation to skip through, and I'm really grateful for your time. So a huge thanks to our panelists for that deep dive into the future of Gen AI.